Okay, welcome back. This is Chapter 2 or Workshop 2. And as always, I want you to grab the book and turn to the page at the beginning, which would be page 95. And let's kind of go over the learning objectives. And so, here's what we're supposed to learn. This is about format, functions, and formulas. So formatting cells and cell ranges and worksheets, yep. Creating information with functions, yep. Calculating totals in a table, yep. Creating information with formulas, using conditional formatting, which is very cool, hiding information in a worksheet, and documenting functions and formulas. Now, if you were bored to tears with the previous video, well, I promise you there's going to be at least one thing in this video where you're going to go, wow, I didn't know that. Okay, I promise you're going to learn something. Okay, so on the next page, they talk in general terms about how you present information. And, there's several different techniques. One is, an oral presentation. The other is like a narrative written presentation. And then there's tabular, like rows and columns. And then graphical. Well, Microsoft Excel is great at doing tabular and graphical. Now, we're not doing graphical in this chapter. So, tabular, rows and columns kinds of stuff, okay, we're doing good. If you turn to page 97 at the top, they talk about the different types of number formats that are available. So let me start up good old Microsoft Excel, and I'll just go here in the middle and I type, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so if you look at that, there's a lot of things you might be able to do to make that different. I'm going to click on the cell and do a right click. Remember we talked about the mini toolbar? And across the top here is some things that have a dollar sign, and it says accounting. That one obviously is percent, and this is whether or not I want commas. Let's try that one first. So right now, it's just 1, 2, 3, 4. If I wanted to turn commas on, I would hit that little button, and it put a comma in there. It also did some other things. Now I'm going to direct your attention to this part over here, because this is essentially the same thing as the other, except in my way of thinking it's a little bit easier. There's more to it. So this is the types of dollar signs you might want. This is whether or not you want percent, whether or not you want the commas. This one's a cool one about increasing and decreasing the number of decimal points. So we're going to do that. So I'm going to grab this guy and I'm just going to hit this button. See how it increases the number of decimal points and that decreases the number of decimal points? Kind of cool. This would be a really strange percent, so I'm going to go ahead and change it. I'm going to change it to 0.1234. All right, so 0.1234. Now, oh, how come I lost all my numbers? Well, because I told it to use that many decimal points. If I want to see more decimal points, I'm going to have to go in here and I have to click on it first. Go in here and then tweak this guy until I can see them all. Right? Okay. Now I'm going to change this to a percent. So what's that going to be? Well, it's going to be 12.34%, right? Okay, so once again, I'm going to have to go in here and change the decimal points. So the whole changing the decimal points to see what you want to see, that's going to be a common thread. Now, once you've told it what type, you have these other tweaks you can do, right? You can go in there and add commas and add decimal points. But what if you didn't even really know for sure what it is that you were trying to format? So this little down arrow here is the format, the number format picker. Okay, so I'd pull this thing down, and so here they are. So in the number world, you have just generic, which means I don't have a clue what you're doing, a plain old number, currency. Now currency means it's probably going to have the dollar sign out there, and it's probably going to have like a decimal point with 2 points, right? Accounting is similar, but accounting has some extra rules in there about zeros and negative numbers and colors and different ways to make that kind of show up a little better. Short date, long date, time, percent, fractions. I rarely use fractions. Okay, so let's try just a plain old number format. Okay, so here's just a plain old number. It doesn't know anything else about it. I can still do some extra stuff to it. Okay, I mentioned to you here when you go to this guy, you have this little down arrow for accounting, and you get to pick what symbol you want to show. That's pretty cool. So where is that over here? You know, how come I get the accounting things on just plain old numbers? Kind of weird, huh? Anyway, the bottom line is, as long as you have a number, these things will kind of light up, and you'll be able to go to make some tweaks. Okay, so there's an exercise in here in the book about how to use the accounting one and how to change things to a negative number. So I'm going to go and add some more text here, or numbers. I'm going to put in some more stuff, and I'm going to do a minus 2.2. Okay. So now I'm going to go in and I'm going to select all these guys, right? You know, remember how you lasso these things? And I'm going to go in here and I'm going to go to accounting. And so using the accounting rules, it went in and instead of using a negative number, because negative numbers are not visually they don't stand up very much, the accounting rule basically made the dollar signs appear on this side all lined up, and then uses these little parentheses. Now, how is that different than just using currency? Okay, well, currency uses a dollar sign, but it's nudged up against the numbers, okay? And it uses the traditional the minus sign. So it's really kind of sort of the same thing. It's just that the accounting folks, you know, like their dollar signs lined up, and like their negative numbers. And there's an exercise in here where you can go in and say, well, I want a custom format for a number, and I want to go in here and make some tweaks to it. And you can do some weird stuff in here about fonts and colors and all sorts of strange things. You know, here's what the font is, and say I want to make it red. And, you know, all sorts of weird things you can do. Okay. So that's formatting numbers. On the page 100, they talk about formatting dates. I will tell you, I don't particularly like any of the Excel date formats. Okay, I don't like them. So, for example, if I said, I don't know, let's do January 3rd, 2015, and then over here I have 11, I don't know, 20, 2015. Well, I don't like it because they don't line up, okay? Maybe I'm just kind of OCD, kind of a guy, but I want all the months to line up and the dates to format. So I like double digits. I want leading zeros. So I want that to be 0, 1, 0, 3, so that they all line up. Okay, that's just visually kind of the kind of guy I am. So you might think, oh, okay, well let's find one in the date format. There's bound to be one here that allow me to do that. Well, there's short date. No, well, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go all the way down the bottom to where it basically says more. And so they have some really cool date format things here. And here's a good one. And you can see what it's going to look like. So this is the normal one. Do I want it to be, you know, 2 digits? Well, that's a 2-digit example. Great. But I want 4-digit year. Okay, so where is that? And you go, well, you know, they don't really have a 2-digit and a 4-digit year. You mean I'm broke? I mean, there's no way to fix this? Well, I'll just go down here to either special or custom. And custom basically allows me to type in the type of format that I want. This one is close, okay? And so I'm going to go in here and I'm going to change this to read MM. Well, I didn't mean to do it in uppercase. M and DD. So as I'm typing my format, I get to see how it's going to work, and that's what I want. Woohoo! So now my months and days all line up. Cool. All right. There's going to be a homework assignment where you're going to have to make the date format look like this. Okay. Just telling you. All right. Time. Time behind the scene is a very unusual kind of thing because behind the scenes is being stored as a decimal number. So for example, if I go in here and I say, I don't know, 0.23 and 0.45, okay. And then I'll light these guys up and go here to the time format, like What? Well, yeah. And the reason for me showing you that is when you copy stuff from another spreadsheet and you're copying just the data and the format doesn't come along, you may look at that and think, wait a minute, where on earth did those numbers come from? Well, just behind the scenes, times are being stored as decimal numbers. Okay? That's all I'm trying to tell you. So, once again, you can go in there and tweak things. The point of me telling you about the time thing is that do I want things like AM and PM and all those kinds of options? There's tons and tons of these options. And if you can't pick them off the list, then you go down to here and you tell exactly what you want. Let's say I want military time, you know, rather than AM, PM kind of a thing. Okay, then pick what you want and doink. Okay, just as an example. So that's kind of date and times. I'm going to switch over from this kind of worksheet over to another file that's actually, instead of just having just, you know, random stuff, here's an honest-to-God spreadsheet that I use. Okay, now I use this spreadsheet at the beginning of every class to kind of put my class together. So this is a real spreadsheet, okay? It's not, you know, some fake thing. And I got a bunch of stuff down at the bottom. I'm going to start the schedule. And so this is an honest-to-God real spreadsheet that I use, not just some contrived example. So here is how I work out the schedule. I just want to show you a couple things. First of all, I use that 2-digit date format for the months and the days, so all that kind of lines up. Okay. Yeah, that's good enough to show you. I promise we'll get back to that. Okay. The next one they talk about is on page 101. They talk about the cell alignment. And if you go to the align section of the home page, there's an alignment doodad right here. And you can pretty much well tell, for example, that in my headings, okay, my headings across here, if I click on a heading, it's going to tell you what has been selected. So if you wanted to just look at it to see, you can see that bold has been turned on, that horizontal center and vertical bottom has been turned on. Okay, and that's for that entire row. Okay, so that entire row has gotten bold, centered, and bottom. Okay, now this is just like any other type of word processing thing, right? Where you go into Microsoft Word and you click on the text and you tell it you want it right centered or left centered. I mean, there's nothing really fancy here. So let's just pick a cell and just mess with it. So I want that cell to be, you know, right justified. I want it to be centered. I want it to be left. Okay, it's just go in there and you click and tell it what you want to do. For example, I made these guys all centered. Okay, kind of cool. Okay. The only thing that's weird that you don't get in word processing is this vertical stuff, because, you know, normally you don't do vertical. Now, in this case, let's see what the difference is between making it go to the top, the middle, and the bottom. Okay, there's hardly any changes whatsoever. And the reason is it's only one cell, you know, high. In another context, if you had wrap text and there was a spot, then yes, these would actually do something you could see. So having it default to the bottom, that's perfectly okay in this case. So I'm going to go here and stretch this guy so you can see what we're talking about. Now, remember how you change the height and something? All right, I'm pulling on down. Now let's try that again. And I go top, middle, bottom. Cool. I'm going to do an undo to undo that. Cool. Okay, this is the good place to stop for the 15-minute mark. We'll pick this thing up again in just a few.